Alrighty, folks, the appointed time having been arrived at, I will call to order this meeting of the Finance Committee on March 18th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2020 relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency and the March 31st, 2025 extension granted by Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022. This meeting for the town of Bridgewater will be fully remote and accessible to the public through remote participation to the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance is permitted. Citizens who wish to tune into the meeting may do so via Zoom. So now that I've read the disclosure and we've called to order, let's move to item B, approval of meeting minutes from February 12th, 2024. I believe everybody got a copy of it, so if there are any questions, concerns, or items that need to be reviewed on it, please speak now. Alrighty, hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I hear a motion to approve from Ms. Claparis. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Beam. Josh, if you could take the roll call, please.
MJ,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Excellent. We will now move on to item C of the agenda, public comment. If there is anybody from the public who wishes to speak, they may do so at this moment in time. Just I ask that you please indicate your name and address for record keeping purposes. Okay, we don't have anybody from the public, Josh?
No.
Alrighty, so let's move on to item D, old business. I don't believe we have any old business at the present time. However, I will certainly note that we haven't really had any updates for the subcommittee. It's been a little difficult to get the group together, but I will be checking in with the chair to see how we can do things a little bit more differently. So keep tuned to that. Let's now move on to item E, new business. And as some of you have probably noticed, we have a very stacked agenda for this evening. So let's start with first things first. Starting with new business EA, order O-FY24-027, FY25 water and sewer rates. And I do see that Miss Guarini is here this evening. So Laurie, if you'd be so kind as to fill us in on the measure before us.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you. Happy Tuesday. Oh, it's Monday, right? I don't know what day it is. Yes, so the order before you is one of many, and this one is specifically for the proposed rate increases for the water and sewer for fiscal 2025, which means that the increases would go in effect not before July 1st of 2025. So the sewer increases, so the sewer, we're currently in the process of securing an affordability study and a new rate study that will look at all of the DEP's requirements for the permits that we have for the new wastewater treatment plant, and then phase 2, which is, as everyone who's paying attention knows, that the escalation costs are just, they're just not really sustainable. But we do know that because of the last 20 or so years, there hasn't been a lot of increases in the water and sewer rate. So we're going to try to play catch up as best we can and try to get some money into the sewer enterprise fund and the water enterprise fund so it can sustain the debt service payments that will likely be necessary for the infrastructure that's happening. So that is that measure.
I will open it up to questions if there are any. I am going to ask one myself first. Laurie, to help the fund be self-sustaining at this point because it is an enterprise fund, do we have a general idea of what kind of borrowing we're going to need to do in the near term to justify the increases on these? Because I know just looking at them, difference between FY 24 and 25, just say for tier one, it's not really that much. It's sort of a 0.012 difference, but I know that from a larger perspective, that usually adds up to a lot. Is there any general idea of what we're looking at for the borrowing that would allow us to justify these increases?
Well, currently, thank you. So currently there is phase one of the wastewater treatment facility that is about $40 million that we are borrowing. But we're currently set to start paying for that. Phase one was supposed to be completed by June 30th, but I think it's being delayed. But phase two, as I indicated in my statement earlier, phase two, the escalation prices went from 20 million to 40 million, and now it's up to 50 million. So we're working with DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, EPA, all of because of the requirements that the permit for the town has. So they put all these requirements of what the new constructions are. So we're working with a company we've engaged with to do an affordability study and rate study, so that, because right now there's no way that the rates can sustain the second phase. So we know we have to, and we should have been every year doing a little, and so that's kind of where we are now. So did that help you?
It does. And my follow-up question to that, Lori, is since we are basically sort of partaking in catch up on this, I guess my bigger concern is at what point is it going to finally catch up? Do we have an idea with a forecast of any sort to say when we'll finally be able to say that any rate increases that happen now will be, because I know some folks may not see this as being drastic, but I know 0.12 can mean a big difference, especially with the lower water bills, especially with some folks that may see their bill go from maybe $100 to $200. Not saying that that would be, a general scenario, but, water usage can be high. But with these increases, at what point do we see a level of parity where any other increases will probably be a little bit less than what we're looking at right now?
So with this actual proposal, well, not the rate proposal, but the phase two proposal of the wastewater treatment facility upgrade, we could raise our rates by 1,000% and it wouldn't be affordable. So yeah, we're in a stage right now where we're looking at phase two like it's just and it's not just the Bridgewater community, it's all the communities over throughout the Commonwealth. But this rate, we haven't raised sewer rates since 2017, I think. So we're not playing catch up, but we in order to stay sustainable, we do have to do some increase. So the sewer rates don't affect everyone in town too. So it's the people that are tied to the sewer lines, obviously will get this. If you're a water user, but not a sewer user, you won't see any part of the sewer increase, but just the water increase. But if you are a sewer and a water user, you'll see both of them increasing. But you have infrastructure that's the only way to pay for it itself. So we want to do some water lines in the future, sewer line borrowing, and so there's a lot coming up in the next 10 years. So we either have to build our reserves, look for some options, and you'll see before you that we're looking at our neighbors and the communities that we are comparable to, so that we're trying to just get ready for what we know is coming our way as best we can.
And my last question before I let folks ask questions. my last question would be is, do we know of any type of legislative intervention by the Commonwealth to help address this? Since we're obviously not the only town that would have this issue. I know there's probably multiple of the municipalities that are going to be experiencing this probably in the next few years, especially with the stormwater management guidelines, EPA guidelines changing as they have. Do we see any type of legislative relief coming from the general court perhaps, or maybe from a governor's administration? Maybe not this one, but is there anything that looks like it could be in the offing at some point just to help us maybe, defer or, at least bulwark against what could be seen as large increases that could be somewhat unpalatable to the public?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. All the agencies, they have all these mandates that communities have to absorb. And it puts it on the users of, to deal with the blowback of everything. In the case with phase one wastewater treatment plant, we were giving some loan forgiveness, which came out of the ARPA money from the state, which was about $5 million off of the 40 million that we're borrowing for the phase one. And then they also subsidized communities with a 0% interest rate, which was another about 5 million. So, I mean, they're trying to do things like that. But still obviously you have to, when you do your authorization to borrow, you have to borrow for the whole cost of the project. And we hope when phase one is complete, so we'll be paying about, instead of the 40 million, whatever it is, it'll be about 30 million. 30 million is still a high amount to pay back. So the state is trying to get these programs, using up the ARPA money and federal funds and things like that they offer community with special borrowing. So, I mean, that's what they call helping us. So that's the only thing that I've seen. But we're out there trying to talk to our legislators. I mean, with our budget challenges and our enterprise fund challenges, we're trying to get our delegation to make sure that the state is hearing us. So, we just keep plugging away at it.
Okay. All right.
So.
And I will open up the floor to questions. Remember, when asking a question, please do so through the chair. I do see a hand up. Julie?
Okay, so I'm taking myself off mute, so I'm getting better at this. So one question I have is, do you know when, maybe you said this already, when will phase one be completed? Do we know when the estimated completion date is?
So it was originally June 30th. However, I think it's moved back to the fall because of, there's some change orders that the town is working with the contractor on. So I honestly, I don't know the actual reason, but I can get everyone an update. But the original target date was June 30th, but from what I'm being told in the last updates, they're pushing that phase one.
So I assume that it's safe to assume that phase two would then also be pushed up. I mean, obviously you can't start phase two.
Right.
And how long was phase two supposed to take? Is that supposed to, how long are we looking at this whole thing, I guess, if we then?
Yeah, well, phase one was supposed to take about a year, maybe 18 months. Phase two, probably the same amount of time, but we know with the escalating costs, we haven't come before you for any authorization for any of the costs for phase two because we're pushing back with DEP, EPA, all the state agencies with our project managers that we've hired through environmental partners. So we're doing a lot. We're meeting with a lot of state agencies and reps, and we're just trying to get a timeline. First, when phase one is complete, but second is phase two coming along, and what's the cost going to be and how is the town going to be able to afford it? So that's kind of in the forefront right now.
So we don't know if there'll be another increase. Should the taxpayers be expecting another increase? I know you said we haven't had an increase since 2017, but now that we do have this project in the works and no guarantees that we'll get any relief from those other departments you just mentioned. Should we anticipate an increase yearly until the project is complete, or quarterly, or what have you? I'm not sure how you.
Yeah, probably estimating that they probably will get on a track for a yearly increase, not, trying to keep it measurable instead of, oh, wait, we got this big thing, we're gonna jack up your price, so it should have been kind of a thing already, but with the government changing from the water commissioners, water and sewer commissioners, and us getting our DPW department together, where just working to try to make sure that the users can afford what is being asked, and can't afford the infrastructure cost that's out there. So but again, it's not, the whole town isn't on sewer, so that's what makes it a little difficult. So
Right, so only the people that are on sewer are paying the sewer rates
correct.
portion?
Yes.
Right. And then you said you compared to other towns. Is that towns of the same size, or in the same demographics, or the same, close vicinity of us, I guess? When you say compared to other towns, what kind of towns were we compared to?
Yeah, so the DPW, would compare to not just our neighbor communities, because they have different forms of governments, different land, different population, different, so yeah, it was all of the above.
And the fact that we have a prison and a college and any of that taken into effect?
Well, the good
Account-
news is the prison and the college, they are big users of the water and sewer, so they're probably the big payers of it as well.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
I do see Mr. Beans' hand up, then I saw Rig. Mr. Bean, do you want to ask your question?
Thanks, MJ. I had a couple. First was the rate on the sewer is going up by 50% effectively, and I heard that, we haven't taken one since 2017. So I guess, the question was kind of asked, but are we comparable when it comes to sewer and water rate to towns either similar in size and demographic as us, or towns close to us, or are we vastly behind and we're trying to catch up?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, we are vastly behind, so we are trying to catch up.
Okay, and then the other one is, has it been quantified? I know the water is a much smaller one, but it covers significantly more people in the town, and the sewer is more substantial at 50%. But if we quantified what this will bring in revenue dollars with the change?
Yeah, so it will sustain the increases of the cost of the fund itself to run. That means all the operations, the salaries, the expenses, the capital needs of each fund. So just trying to keep up with with the enterprise funds, they're different than the general fund, where we have Prop 2.5. So every year the property, real estate, and personal property taxes are increased by 2.5%. So it's always 2.5% that you have that growth and rate that can help absorb some of the increased costs and the increased escalating expenses and capital needs and so on. So the enterprise funds, they don't have like an automatic 2.5 every year. It's like when it meets to be able to afford its own operation. So, over the past few years, it's been able to, take on some of the other projects, and now with the new wastewater treatment plant and the new water treatment plant, we know we have water main work to do, and so we're just trying to be proactive and get some money in retained earnings so that we can meet all the needs of the increase for all the consumers and the users in town.
Lee, did you have any additional questions before I move on to the next person?
Sorry, I muted myself. No, that was all.
That's all right. Thank you, Lee. Rig, I saw your hand up as well. Did you have some questions?
Dude, thanks, MJ. Julie had already touched upon the college thing, BSU and the prison. Just to follow up to the previous question, could you speak to the reason why we're so far behind in terms of the rates compared to other towns?
Yeah, so all I can really pass along is that the water commissioners, the sewer and water commissioners had control of raising the rates. And I'm not really sure why it wasn't done all along. Most communities did have, in very small increases year to year or every other year. So I can't speak to why it wasn't done actually, other than that the town really has moved forward to run things more like a business with the enterprise funds. And so we're hiring business-oriented people to look at all the costs, analyze what's down the road, what's in front of us, and just try to do our best estimates of facing what we know is coming. So
The follow-up question to that, Lori, is, and thank you so much for letting me know that you're not sure of the cause and the reason. The follow-up question is, will there be notification that goes out to residents to make them aware that this is coming down the pike, and here's why? And I know you're not aware of what the why is. Is it possible that someone in town leadership can find out what the why is, so that the why can be included in, the reasoning, the message that's going to go out to town residents, so that they can make, they can understand, opposed to just, here's, your water's going to go up with no
that's
real
right.
explanation.
Right. Yeah. Well, I know it's a great point. It's great. And I'm not saying that I don't know, I mean, we all know that everyone wanted to keep the rates down. So it wasn't my decision to do these things, but yeah, it's a great point. Obviously, the water and sewer department will definitely put out a publicity campaign to let all the users know of the increase that, like I said, will go into effect July 1. We'll be posting it, I'm sure, on social media, and then there'll probably be some kind of notification in the bills now when they go out. So we do billing quarterly, so if there's a quarterly billing that is done, like say in June or whatever, and if it ticks off to the next year, the new rates wouldn't be in until it's a full new beginning after July 1. So, it's almost April, so I think they'll have enough time to get, the information out and the reasons why, here, this is why it wasn't done for the last 10 years or whatever, or 20 years, why it wasn't increased. But I just think that we're running it now more like a business, and not like a small town that's just trying to do the things that they want, that needs to get done. I mean, everyone knows that we're trying to push out some downtown revitalization. So obviously we're going to need more of a upgrade in all of our structure, our infrastructure, because if we grew downtown the way that we want to in the future, we need another plant, treatment plant. So we're going to need funding, we're just going to need more and more infrastructure able to grow. So I think we'll get that message out.
Thank you. And my
Chair, I have
last
a question.
question.
Sorry, Regan.
No, that's okay,
Go.
bud. And my last question, and you started to touch on it, Lori, is as we do grow as a community, with new businesses and downtown, being reimagined, has there been discussions about adjustments to the water rates, particularly for those that are on fixed income?
Mhm.
So I'm just curious to know, has there been conversations about that as new businesses come in into town?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, for the new businesses coming in town, the new, to have some new rates, not just for using, the infrastructure, but the connections will be, at a more real rate, to start off. So, when the new business comes in, they already know what it's at. So, I think I lost my train of thought on that one, but, yeah, and also, Mr. Rulli was at the last council meeting because they're, looking to change, some ordinances and things to get, the town's, charter and ordinances in line with developing for the downtown district, the zoning, I mean to say. So with these zoning changes, it allows us as community and economic development is to apply for these larger grants that are available through the federal government, through all these blocks of funding for infrastructure that meet the ordinances, meets the, I guess, the MBTA requirements, meets the housing requirements. So in order to like get to the growth, and you have to have the economic plan in play. So that's what the economic development team has been doing, and why they're asking for some of these zoning changes so that we can go after the big money that will help, the residents and the town itself, as well as, get that federal opportunity for water. There's so many things out there that, you have to qualify. I know for like even rate reduction plans that, like you said, help people that can't afford any increases. So there's subsidies, there's grants, there's a whole lot of things out there that the economic development team is trying to, encompass in their work as we look towards growth and how we're actually going to pay for all of this. So it's a tax-based thing, it's a infrastructure thing, it's a, rates for everything. So we're looking at the big picture down the road. So, but we want to make sure the residents can sustain this too, because everybody, as we know, is dealing with all of the inflation of everything. So.
Thank you.
And I saw that Mr. Pace wanted to ask a question. Steve?
Thank you, to the chair, if I may. You've answered most of my questions, but one I do have is, it sounds like this increase is inevitable, and it's something that's it's gonna have to, it's necessary, obviously, to catch up. But to use Laurie's term, there's gonna be blowback from the community, of course, to be expected. And my question, I guess, to the board and to yourself is, what are we going to provide to the community, to the people paying the increase in their water fees? Are they still going to be having this? The complaint is brown water. They're still having issues with their water. And for us to propose this, oh my, to use your term, the blowback is something we all have to be prepared for. And unless you mentioned infrastructure, unless we can tell them it's part of the plan for phase 2 and 3, I think that we should expect the unexpected, my opinion.
Yeah, it's a great point, and I think that the DPW department, along with the town manager's help, again, has to make sure they're prepared for the to inform the community of why and how and this is the plan. So I believe it will happen, but I will make sure, I know Michael was supposed to be on the call, but he got called away. But yeah, I will relay all this information, so we can keep everyone informed. But you're right, I mean, yeah, it's tough, you know?
I know.
I see the numbers, so, you know, I'm here to defend them, that it's needed, it's necessary to run the operations. But, you know, for the reasons why it hasn't been increased before, I couldn't tell you that.
And to Stephen's point, there will certainly need to be a committed effort from the part of leadership to articulate the justification for the increases when they do happen and how they'll happen and for the what, where, why, and how. Having been on the inside of government myself, it can sometimes be a very daunting task to articulate arguments. I find that usually a careful and measured approach works most effectively. It is my hope that the administration will be able to put that forward to the community. As it relates to our committee, we serve as sort of a point of information only in that we can share what we've been given and the explanations that we've been given from those who come to our committee before us and explain to us, you know, this is what's being proposed, this is what's before you. We need your input on it, yes or no, or no action. For us, if a question does come to us, it's in our best interest as a committee to articulate that we will be approving or disproving items based upon the best information that we can be given at the time and as provided by those in the finance department, in the town manager's office, through the Department of Public Works, and other stakeholders in the community. My hope is that when the time does come, when inevitable the blowback may be, that it won't be as burdensome as some may expect it to be. I am of the opinion that it will be able to be mitigated in a way that hopefully will satisfy the town concerns from residents and stakeholders, but also allow us to say, this is your government at work, this is what we're doing to try to help, this is how we're trying to address these issues, and we're trying to make it so that what's happening now, we've learned our lessons obviously from the past. We're not going to try to repeat those mistakes, and we're working in a direction that's more beneficial to the town going forward, especially with the concern about brown water. I myself live on the west side of town, and I have had from time to time in my apartment building, which this building's only been around for 3 years, I have had brown water occasionally, and I know exactly why there's been brown water, but oftentimes not a lot of people usually watch these meetings unless they're watching them on YouTube later on. They may not be actively in it at the time, and it ends up, you know, it can sometimes almost be the sound and fury, and there is significance to that sound and fury, but sometimes they may not have that explanation. So for us, it's, you know, we can, as a board or a committee, we can encourage folks to either participate in the meetings, reach out to our colleagues in town government who, you know, they get the paychecks on a bi-weekly and weekly basis with which to take care of this, that we can at least say to them, we would invite you to at least join in these meetings and ask these questions when public comments are happening, because an educated populace is a active populace. And as far as I'm concerned, the greatest part of our representative democracy is that people can contribute and ask those questions. So hopefully going forward, our part will be to encourage folks to at least participate and ask the questions of the meetings. You know, we'll ask our questions, we'll ask Laurie those questions, we'll ask Michael those questions, we'll ask Jonas those questions, and we'll hopefully get those answers. But I would strongly encourage that we as members of committees say to folks, come to a meeting, watch a meeting, ask for records, ask for information requests. It's the best of both worlds. It's participation on our side, it's participation on the public side. So hopefully we can at least have it here recorded. That is something that we'd like to see, and hopefully we will get that in the near term. I did see Julie had another
Yeah,
another question.
it's kind of a follow-up to what you were just asking. So when, I know it's on the agenda tonight, but with Mike not being here and maybe some uncertainty other than it has to be done, to balance the budget, et cetera, or to get the bills paid. When do we have to vote on this to make it, does it have to be voted on tonight, or could it wait to a meeting that Mike could attend if there was still some outstanding questions, or people like Nate and Eric that have a lot more experience with the FinCom, maybe could be here to vote on it as well, but where it is such, and going to impact a lot of people, whether it be positive or negatively, I guess. Not positively, other than we're going to have water and sewer usage. Is it something we have to vote on tonight?
So I just wanted to say, to answer your question, we're trying to balance the water and sewer budgets with this increase. So, you're going to be getting the orders for the water and sewer budgets along with the town budget, probably at your next month's meeting. So, I just want to also state that the rates aren't just, any increase in any of the rates are not just taken lightly. They're not just like one day everyone says, oh, let's raise the rates. This is like months of discussions with, the department leaders, Michael Azu, the DPW director, Jonas, his staff, the finance team, looking at all the numbers. So this is a culmination of probably 4 to 6 months worth of analyzing what our current situation is, our current rates, our current budget, our current expenses, the current projects going on, the current projects coming up. So it has been thoroughly talked about internally. That being said, I know I can't always off the cuff think of all the questions of, to defend each and every one of these items before you, but I do my best. But I just want you to know that, the departments do take a lot of time before anything, especially an increase to our, to the public. It's,
Oh,
methodically thought out and.
no, I
So-
respect that and I understand that. I just, I guess my next question would be, what if we voted no? How would the bills get paid? Or what if we didn't, we advise, because we just vote and then we make the recommendation to the town council, and obviously they can do what they want. But if by chance everyone said, no, we don't want to pay more money for brown water, or we don't, kind of like Rainham saying, we're not going to pay for Bristol Plymouth, so they had to take it out of their operating budget somewhere else. Would that be the situation here? The money has to come from somewhere, right?
Yeah, I'm sure the debate, I mean, the council hasn't even debated it yet because they just got the order as well. And they referred it to you guys, your process is, you can wait another week or however, I won't go into anything about how that will happen, but if rates don't go up, then then the revenue is not going to sustain the operation. So, just as a person who sees the whole process of the year, that just means some cuts would have to happen in the operation of that budget, or the town will have to subsidize the operation of the sewer or the water fund or the transfer station. If that fund doesn't make enough revenue and has to be set to whatever standards of all of the guidelines and that kind of thing, then it falls back on the taxpayers to subsidize the enterprise funds if they don't have enough revenue. So
When you say subsidized, do you mean
I mean,
like an override type thing, or you mean what we're doing here with this order?
so if there's not enough revenue in the enterprise fund, then a subsidy from the town, meaning comes from taxpayers, meaning it comes from, yeah, it could come from our taxes that we would have to cut maybe something in the general fund in order to offset the sewer. I mean, that stuff doesn't typically happen because we've usually, we've always had enough funding to keep the operations running. But again, I don't see that happening. I mean, but that you're asking, what if there's not enough money in either enterprise fund? Well, the only options are if you have to keep water and sewer going, then it comes from another source, meaning the only other source of the town is taxpayer revenue.
And to
Right.
answer Julie's question, it would likely also perhaps come from the stabilization fund, because stabilization funds would have to be used it would be considered an extreme circumstance where the taxpayers would have to directly subsidize it out of the general fund. So the stabilization fund, whether or not it has a sufficient amount of money on hand available, would have to be used to subsidize and finance that enterprise fund in order to allow it to keep operating. So it would probably come from that. Barring that, it probably would be an override, Laurie, I would think. But that, I don't know if the town would have an appetite for that at that point. So it's more a matter of, and Julie, to your point, it most likely would probably be, the appetite of the public would likely be for us to either approve or disapprove and let the council make their final decision. Ultimately, for us, it's a matter of, do we think it's fiscally responsible? I myself, I won't say what way I would vote myself, but from a fiscal stability standpoint, the rate increases would have to happen in order for town operations and services to continue. Barring that type of circumstance, you would basically be holding water services at bay and not being able to fully implement them and, operate them in a manner that would be satisfactory, nor safe, nor healthy for the community. But
I understood I kind of knew the answer, not kind of, I knew the answer. I just wanted it out there so that, like you said, if someone happens to listen to this later, because they'll say, oh, there goes that finance committee again, just raising our money, you know what I mean? But I understand it has to come from somewhere. So
I
thank
appreciate your
you.
time, Julie.
No problem. Thanks.
Did anybody else have any other questions? Okay, barring any other questions, I would entertain a motion. This is the first no motion at all. Since there doesn't sound to be urgency, Laurie, could we postpone this to our next meeting if we so chose? Oh, you're on mute.
That's your discretion.
Can I, MJ, can I just chime in?
Sure thing, Rick.
I appreciate, Julie digging deep and also your explanation. At the end of the day, it sounds like town council, they need to discuss this first, and it doesn't sound like that they have. I think for us, it would make sense to understand what their thinking is, as a leadership group, and then our debates, can happen more effectively, opposed to us making a decision first, and then they're discussing it after the fact, because the impact of this, and I see it on both ends, right? The impact of this, there certainly will be impact either way. And I don't know if there's any good per se, right? Because the water bill go up for people, for town residents, and obviously it sounds like all of us on the same page in terms of the concerns for those that really can't afford it. That's on one end, but then on the opposite end, to Lori's point, there's a trickle down effect, the operation of the department, where would the funds come so that they can do their day to day. So I would advocate that this that we punt this to town council, have them have the discussions first, and then bring it back to us, so that, any follow-up questions, we can sort of, review it with a different lens.
So I think I understand what I'm hearing from my colleagues this evening is that if it's desirous, it sounds like there would probably need to be a motion to defer back to town council on this measure until such time as they review it and then send it back to us for either approval or disapproval for them to put into final action. Is that correct?
I'd
That's
agree with
what
that.
I would second.
So I would need someone to actually make that motion before we move forward.
MJ, would it be beneficial for the finance committee to have a joint committee meeting with the budget and finance? I could talk to the town council clerk.
I think me personally, and I'm hoping the rest of the membership would back me up on this. I would actually more firmly appreciate having a joint meeting on this because this has a sweeping effect on all taxpayers in town, regardless of the services elsewhere in town that they use. I think it would be best if we did have a joint meeting between our committee and the budget and finance committee of the town council, just to suss everything out together and have everybody on the page, because one can't happen without the other. And ultimately, without one, we can't implement it or say no to it. So I would think it would probably be best if we had a joint meeting.
Support that as well, MJ. Just to streamline it.
So Josh, do we need a motion in order to act upon that request, or can we just say we will, I just want to make sure procedurally, we can't table it until such time as we have a meeting scheduled. We would need a motion to postpone until the joint meeting can be established. Is that correct?
You wouldn't need a motion to postpone. We can just continue it. And
Okay.
then, that way, if it makes sense to just gather all the items that are, on the agenda tonight, you guys would want to discuss with the jointly rather than going back and forth between committees. And I'm just trying to save you some time.
No, I appreciate that. I'm all for efficiency on this one, Josh. So if it is the will of the committee, I would say we continue this. If that's the desire, I'd like at least a little bit of unanimous consent. And then Josh, you would be the one I would direct to have a joint meeting set up for us and that committee.
Okay.
So I would ask the members, do we have that consent?
So yes, Chair, I would like to continue. That's Julie.
All right. All right. And Josh, we don't need a motion to approve that. We just continue it, right?
Right.
Excellent. All right. So we will continue it, and Josh, get that meeting scheduled as soon as possible for me, please.
Definitely.
Excellent.
Thank
So
you, Josh. You read my mind.
So let's move on to
Can I
our
just
next
say
item.
one more thing?
Oh, yep.
Excuse me. I'm
Sure.
sorry, Chairperson. So when the council refers it to committee, I think your action or non-action sends a message to them. But I do know that the budget and subcommittee meeting tomorrow with the council subcommittee, they're meeting tomorrow, I think is it 6 o'clock or 6:30? But I mean, I don't know if maybe one of your representatives someone can go to that meeting and hear what what their positions are. Just letting you know that meeting's tomorrow.
And council has a regular scheduled meeting tomorrow, correct?
No,
No,
they're
okay.
next week.
They're next week. All right. So I would say, so we can't obviously have a joint meeting tomorrow because that would be.
No, I
Well,
mean,
then, yeah,
someone could go and just voice your concerns and then maybe set the meeting up. But that's all I'm saying. I'm suggesting,
So I would say then, we're continuing it until we can get a meeting together. But if we want to get initial thoughts from folks, do I have anybody of my colleagues who would like to volunteer to at least go to the joint meeting that the council has not joint meeting, the subcommittee meeting that they have tomorrow evening, just to feel out the sentiment?
I have something at 5. I might be able to go if I get finish in time, but I can't guarantee it. But if I do, because you're not sure if it's 6 or 6:30? Is that what she's saying? But.
She's just checking.
I think it is 6.
Yeah, 6 might be too tight for me, but
It's 6:30.
6:30. Can't guarantee. And we can't have too many anyways, because then we can't have a quorum, right? So, I mean, I
Right.
would just be a public member, right? Like everybody else. It's not like I could participate. So I could, but I could certainly listen. But I can't guarantee, so I don't want to make the commitment. Never know with traffic.
I do know that feeling when it comes to traffic, Julie, so I certainly, I appreciate that you're willing to go, and I certainly understand that if you aren't able to go, you know, it might not be able to happen, so, but we do have our continuance, so at least we have that part in the pipeline already. And I think that's probably the more important part at this stage, especially with this being such an important matter. We want to make sure we're not acting in a vacuum, and we're not acting in a manner that could be counterproductive. So we will put a pin in that for the time being. And we will move on to our next item. Order O-FY 24-028, acceptance of grant from the Council on Aging from Mass Cultural Council. I will dispense with the majority of it, but the town received through our Council on Aging a grant of some funds from the Cultural Council, and it's a beneficial item. So I will ask that Lori fill us in more on the details.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this is just a another grant. Our Council on Aging Director, she's amazing getting all this money from the state and local agencies. So this is another kudos to her that helps with some of the programs that are going on at the senior center.
And Lori, do we have any examples of some of the programs that it's Emily Williams, she's our COA director, right?
Yes, yep.
Did Emily have any examples of stuff that she had proposed in the grant application by chance?
Let's see. This is for, I think she has like music days. She has music people coming in, parties and for cultural events. So I think that's what this one's for, but I don't have a list of all of the programs, sorry.
That's all right. Knowing the purpose of Mass Cultural Council and the goals that it seeks to achieve, this funding certainly will go a long way to creating programs for our senior residents to enjoy at the senior center, during the normal run of business. I know other towns and cities do try to apply for these grants as well to hold events, small, cultural events, musical events, interactions with, exhibitors and whatnot. And they're very good. They're beneficial for the senior residents, and they're beneficial for the community, because this is funding that, the state is trying to allow us to use. And I actually appreciate Ms. Williams's ability to go for these grants. It's refreshing to see town departments seek out and apply for grants. And this is one of, I believe we had 2 altogether that were on this agenda tonight. I'm really glad to see what we're doing. So my
The
commentary.
community's really lucky to have
Yeah.
her. She's amazing. Some of the other department heads are like, what's your secret sauce in your grant applications? But she's amazing.
The secret sauce, my dear, is to keep at it every time you see something, go for it.
Yeah.
So, my commentary aside, do I have any members who have any questions or concerns of the item that's before us tonight?
No, I can say that I've attended some Mass Cultural Council events, you know, with my daughter, not necessarily in Bridgewater, but in other areas, and that they're always positive experiences. So I hope that we are as fortunate for our seniors. So I'll make a motion to approve this order.
Alrighty,
I'll
motion
second
to-
it.
I hear a motion to approve from Ms. Clapars and a second from Mr. Bean. Josh, if you'd be so kind to take the roll call.
MJ,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Alrighty, let's move on to the next one we have. Speaking of the other grant that that Emily applied for, order O-FY24-029, acceptance of grant, community transit program from Mass DOT. This grant is a much larger one. It's roughly $288,658 from Mass DOT for the Bridgewater Community Cares Program for mobility purposes. And, I'd like to hear a little more details about it, but this is, I'm guessing, another one of the grants that the Council on Aging applied for and was able to help get it.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, so this is actually phase 2. I don't know if anyone can recall, but we had a rather large grant last year for about $260,000, which the seniors were able to work with Bill's Taxi, and they have a bus that says Bridgewater Community Transport. So, and this funding has helped since the COVID. I believe it comes from the state ARPA funds that helps expand mobility for older adults and individuals. So the transportation has been such a great thing for the seniors, that they want to continue it as much as they can. So, and it's just a win-win opportunity for the community.
And if I'm remembering correctly, it's actually very similar to a program a couple of other towns out in the western part of the state did, where they share actually a small busing service between, I want to say it's like 3 or 4 little towns, and they applied for a similar grant. They got the same type of program going. So it's not without precedent, but it is one of those great things that we like to see happening in the community, especially for our senior residents and those with mobility issues. This is certainly a great development, and definitely is a great addition to building upon that other grant that we got last year, which I believe, if I remember correctly, we approved overwhelmingly. So I will open the floor to my colleagues to discuss this, and at some point probably offer up a motion. I see Ms. Lopars' hand up.
Yeah, so through you, the chair, Laurie, do you know how the seniors or the disabled people become aware of this, or how they know how to contact Bill's Taxi to take advantage of this grant or service, transportation service?
So I believe it's in their newsletter. They have a newsletter that pretty sure gets mailed to all the seniors in town. They put up flyers down at the Wyman property. I mean, they're and obviously down the senior center, the word of mouth really travels quickly. So the outreach worker, you know, is always checking on elderly seniors. So they push the word out pretty successfully with a lot of their staff and volunteers. So they do a great job.
Very good. Maybe we can use them for the election too, what's coming up.
I think
All
they
right.
did. I think they
Right?
did. I
Right.
think they already did. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Do any other members have any questions?
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve.
I hear a motion to approve from Mr. Knoll. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Second by Ms. Clapars. Josh, if you could take the roll call, please.
MJ,
Aye.
Julie,
aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Alrighty, thank you, everyone. Now we will move on to our next item on the agenda, Order O-FY24-030, acceptance of a grant for the Police Department for the Justice Assistance Program. This grant is roughly $44,000. It looks like the intent is going to be getting a hold of a law enforcement vehicle for the police department. So it looks like one of our fleet is going to be funded through this particular grant, and it came from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security for their Justice Assistance Grant Program. Laurie, if there's any other information that you can volunteer to us, I would be very appreciative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So yes, again, this is, we have great personnel that work hard to get the town some grant funding. And this was received from one of the supervisors down at the police station who works closely with the justice assistants. So they were able to secure this grant for the town.
Laurie, so I do have a question, and I'll let Julie ask. Do we know which vehicle is going to be replaced in the fleet? Is it one of the cruisers? Is it one of the undercover vehicles? Is it one of the supervisor vehicles?
I believe this is one of the undercover vehicles.
Okay. Julie, did you have a question?
No, no, you just asked it, actually. Thank you.
Oh. Then you're very
Now
welcome.
that the cat's out of the bag, we're getting a new undercover cop, so we're ready with you.
I'm pretty certain now everybody will searching for the the unmarked cars, looking for a speed trap here and there in town, but we won't say whether or not there is one or not. We can neither confirm nor deny.
Or deny, that's it.
Are there any other questions from the membership? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion on this.
Motion to approve.
Motion? Yep. Motion from Julie, second by Rig. Josh, if you'd be so kind as to take the roll call.
MJ,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Rig. Rig, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, aye.
Thank you. Lee,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. So now we get to go to another acceptance of a grant, this time for our colleagues at the fire department, a grant that they received from the Department of Fire Services under Order O-FY24-031. This is going to be a grant for roughly $18,800, a little bit less than that by a few cents. So it looks like we got a grant for replacing some of our firefighters' safety equipment, which is, as we all know, in public safety, very, very important to have updated and working functional equipment. So Laurie, if you could fill us in on this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, we have great personnel. I think Captain Grafton, the fire department, and some of the other officers do a great job at securing funds for the town. And this was a Department of Fire Services that has approved this grant for $18,000, which I believe replaces equipment, and most recently, any major fire or emergency, it just takes one of those to totally destroy some equipment if it gets damaged or whatever. So these guys really need, and the men and women, could use all the money they can when it comes to replacing their equipment and their jackets and their masks and their everything. So
follow-up question, Laurie. For the grant itself, is it specifically for one particular piece of apparatus, or is it specifically for the uniforms that they need, the overall coverings, the hats, any type of tools that they may use, or is it one particular piece of equipment that they're seeking to replace, like a large item?
no, I think this is just for some standard necessary needs that they can replace immediately.
So I know the respirators can be kind of expensive, and I know the
everything.
tanks can also be, while very cumbersome, they can be very pricey as well, and cumbersome in the financial type of it. So seeing $18,000 is very helpful for the department, and hopefully it'll be able to use it as best as possible for as many items as they can. Are there any questions from colleagues regarding the grant that we have received? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. the
Motion to
fire
approve by-
grant.
Yep. Oh, motion
Second.
approved by Ms. Gilbert, seconded by Mr. Bean. Josh?
MJ,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion is approved.
Righty. And now to move on to, and I was incorrect, I didn't think we had two. We actually have 3 grants for Council on Aging that they were dealing with. This is going to be Order O-FY24-032, acceptance of a grant for Council on Aging from the Massachusetts Home and Community-Based Services, HCBS. So it appears that this is a grant for a little under $200,000 from HCBS and ARPA grant program to support adult daycare programming at the senior center. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lori, is this a new program that we're doing at the senior center?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So yeah, this grant actually is, again, it's ARPA funded from the state that Mrs. Williams was able to work in collaboration with the COA director over in Halifax. So while it will come into Bridgewater, it's a joint grant that will support both communities for an adult daycare program, which I think Mrs. Williams has been after this one for a few years, so she was finally able to get it.
And a follow-up question, because of the importance of adult daycare programs, especially for our more advanced in age residents, is this a program that both towns would probably be likely to continue in the future once the grant funds are expended? I would be concerned if it's a program that they would probably likely not continue if the grant funds weren't available. I personally see, our elder citizens, being an important asset to our community and also being an important community within the greater area. And, the one thing I'd like to see myself personally is a program that helps meet their needs and helps serve them during the day. Is this something that we would probably see more of a long-term going forward as a permanent program at the COA?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I believe that that's the goal. Whether or not that happens, I'm couldn't predict, but I think that this money will help with the both centers trying out the program, seeing how successful and how many people, and so it'll be a new program. And where the future of it goes, I'm not really sure, but I know they will be looking to obviously continue it if at all possible. But this money will fund support and I think staff, grant funded staff to help make this all happen. So we can certainly give an update on the status and how it's all going. And I would actually, I thought about possibly having Mrs. Williams come to this meeting, and I, just didn't work out, but I think for you all to hear some of these happenings directly from her, you would get a lot of information that more than I can sum up. But yeah, so this is a very exciting grant for the seniors and for the staff. They were thrilled beyond the moon when she finally got the award letter for this one.
Alrighty, I do see Julie's hand up. Do you have a question, Julie?
Yeah, similar to you, I certainly appreciate anything we can provide the seniors. When they apply for a grant like this, when it is program related, is there a time span on it? Like, is 200,000 going to cover 6 months or a year or 3 months, where you're saying it's a trial program? Or I guess I don't know how they come up with the figure. I appreciate everything, don't get me wrong. I'm just
Yeah.
curious how far they thought it would go.
Yeah, I mean, I can send over all the packets of these grants, or there's probably like 40 pages, so this particular one, I think it'll go, so sometimes if they, she has to set it all up, so I'm not really sure what the start date of this is. So this might go for maybe longer than a fiscal year,
Mhm.
but I guess it depends on when they get all the information and all the pieces in play to get this set up. But I believe, you know, the spending on this probably is about a 2-year span. So,
No,
yeah,
that's
that's,
sufficient. I just didn't know, like I
Yeah.
said, where it was a trial, and I know like in the human service field of like special needs and stuff like that, they're having a hard time finding staffing and things like
Yeah,
that, so.
very hard
For
time.
people to do it, so it's great to have the money, but if you can't find the staff to do it, then it doesn't always go as far as you would like, I
Yes.
guess. But
Mhm.
but we certainly appreciate it, and thank you for their efforts, applying and,
Mhm.
congratulations on being accepted, so.
Yeah,
I'd like to
that was
make a
great.
motion to approve this order. Accept
I
the
hear,
grant.
I hear a motion from Ms. Clapars. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Seconded by Mr. Pace. Josh, if you'd be so kind as to take the roll call.
MJ,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Steve,
aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Alrighty. Moving on to the next item. Order O-FY24-033, Town Council acceptance of proposed license permit and fee increases effective for July 1st, 2024. Before we start on this, I just want a bit of a clarification. Is this supposed to be for FY24 remaining, or is this supposed to be backdated too, or is this supposed to actually be FY25 starting July 1st?
Yeah, July 1, 2024 is for fiscal 25. Yeah, I guess it's not written on there, but yeah, it's for fiscal 25. So just a caveat too, that this isn't, the fees were not included in the fiscal 25 new budget we're putting together.
So the index that we did receive, I know it's in some small print, so hopefully folks were able to look at a good chunk of it, maybe with a little bit of a magnifier or a zoom lens on their laptops. They kind of don't really seem that extreme when you look at it from from a 30,000-foot view. I mean, a difference of one fee in one particular case. I'm just going to start off here. Above ground or underground storage tanks for an initial license went from $200 to $250. I'm gonna venture to guess that the increases are to be commensurate with similar sized communities and how they're licensing in the region. Underground storage tanks and above ground storage tanks doesn't really seem that expensive, and I don't think we really have that many applications happening, so this isn't really sort of a big thing going on. But obviously the other fees that we do see, down the line here, I think there was one I saw that was originally $75 and it went to $100, and this one was sort of a little curious to me, is inspections outside of office hours. Would that be for the building department?
Yes, that's correct. That's the building department. Mhm.
Okay. So, pardon me, my cat decided to get in the way and just participate in the meeting too. You're not a member, you can't come on. So generally it looks like they're sort of across the board reasonable small increases, in that I'm assuming that was by design, correct?
Yeah, you're correct. The town manager put out, at one of his leadership meetings, had all the department heads take a look at all their, licenses and fees, to see if we were in line with all other communities. And, like-minded, like communities, big communities, neighboring communities. So that, each department, the building inspector, did all of his departmental fees, looking at what the going rates are. And he said they were very nominal. The town council clerk looked at all the alcohol licenses and the jukebox licenses and things of that nature. So everything was comparable to communities around us. And the fire department did the same thing. So these fees are very nominal. What I was explained is that, most of the departments are getting uniform on the online licenses. There's an IT project that's beginning, in July 1, and they're redesigning some of the, places on the website to make it more efficient and easier for, the community to, pay for licenses, get the information for licenses. So they thought it was a good time to, before they made all those changes, to make sure that the fees are online. And, so that's what was done, and that's what's before you. Again, it was probably a 4 to 6 month, process for the information to be at the department level, and then, going before the town manager and discussing what all these decisions and fees would be.
Okay.
So,
Two things before I open it up to the rest of the membership for questions. The only other one I had a question about, which, I wanted to ask a question about it sooner, and it just finally reached my train of thought. The last item down there on the list, a fee for the water impact study fee went from $500 to $1,500. I mean, that's a bit steep. Out of all the other ones that are on this list, that is the only one that is, it's $1,000 increase. I'm not sure if there's any way we can get a justification for that one. That was sort of like my big concern. Like I said, I had a train of thought running and it didn't go through all the way, but that one is a bit concerning. Is there anything that you can share with us about that one? And then second, for the permitting software that you were referring to, this sort of sounds like the culmination of a project that was started actually while I was still working for the town. I know that was something that they were looking to do. I know the building department and inspection services was working on procuring a system that would be useful for online permitting, both for health and for inspectional services. Is that sort of what we're seeing now, what you mentioned, the fruit of that discussion, that planning, that conversation that's been going for at least the last few years? And if you could speak to both those two items, the large fee and then permitting.
sure, thank you, Madam Chair. So the water impact study fee, I guess, was really, not at a price that was what should have been. It just hadn't been increased apparently. And that water impact study fee has to do with, developers or, contractors when they're doing projects. So that fee was severely, very cheap. So they, I think we had a consultant, Environmental Partners, do, a statewide, review of what those fees should be, and these are the ones that they were, determined to be. And as far as the online, software, so they actually have already implemented the online software for inspectional services, the Board of Health, CED, so they all have Full Circle. So they've already it's been really working out well. They're bringing on the fire department's fees online, and now we're just connecting everything more or less with, some upgraded and, technology based info that the IT has, started this project with all the departments to make the website a lot more efficient, because, that needs to be done as well.
So
what I've been
positive
told.
development. That's good to hear.
It's
Then.
very positive, yes. Mhm.
Alrighty. I believe Mr. Bean had his hand up first, and then we'll go to Rig after.
So I had the same question about the first study that you asked, MJ, and that's been answered. But the second part was for me was, do we have what incremental dollars this will bring to us in fiscal 25 by taking these increases?
I actually don't have the numbers, but they were calculated when each department was presenting their increases, to the town managers, but I don't actually have it individualized or in total. I think it's, sorry, but yeah, there is an amount. I can get that information to you after the meeting. I could
Yeah,
send
it'd
it
be great
along.
just to have just as an idea,
Sure.
because we have an idea of how many permits and how many everything we do on a yearly
Right.
basis. So just curious as to what this would bring in to the budget.
Yeah, so and it will help. I mean, all these fees, they're local receipts and they do help sustain the cost of each operation of the department. So um it's helpful. But there was that task for every department when they were doing that. So yeah, I'll get that info to you. Thank you.
Alrighty, Ray, you had your hand up?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Like you, MJ, the very last one just really threw me for a whirlwind. I'm wondering, are we able to make a recommendation that that specific fee goes up gradually, opposed to, $1,000? Because the reality of it is that, you know, we all know how it works. It's going to be passed down to taxpayers. Um, so I'm just curious to know, is there a way that are we able to make a recommendation that that specific fee not jump so rapidly from 500 to $1,500?
I I I'm sort of hesitant to answer that, Ray. I want to say the fee itself is, Laurie, correct me if I'm wrong, that's for when projects are being developed, like right before they go before the planning board. They usually have to provide some type of I can speak a little bit to it because I have seen some of these types of things being on the planning board. That the study that they have to do, they have to show, what's going to be water usage on the site, all, stormwater management, those types of things. It's hydrological. I'm not really sure how that's more or less on the contractor, the project, that's sort of on the applicant themselves. It doesn't, and like I said, Laurie, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, it doesn't come to the taxpayer directly, unless you're meaning, Reagan, in the sense of when an applicant comes before the town, they pay this fee as part of their project. When they finish the project, they then pass on the cost of it in the sale of the property or the development that's being built. I'm a little ambivalent towards that. So Laurie, if you could correct me if I'm incorrect or if I'm just reaching at straws on that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, I, like you, don't exactly know what the fee is about, although I do know that this fee for our water impact study, I mean, I know what all the fees are, but I mean, specifically, I think that this comes before, like you said, a developer or whoever has to do some kind of water impact study. And it's very time consuming for the staff to work with the people to, again, bring it to planning board. They have to come to other meetings. So, I mean, it's an engineering process as well. We get the town engineers that have to work and go to the sites for the approval. So it's just a fee that covers the cost of the town's time and professional services. So I think it hadn't been looked at in a while. So again, there's some fees in here that probably haven't changed in years and years, but this one, I think it was just it wasn't at where it should be, and this amount will actually pay for not only, the time for processing, and it's the site inspections, it's the approvals, it's all of that is encompassed in that fee, so.
Thank you for the
Effectively, it's covering the cost of the work that our colleagues who are in the offices have to do. It's more or
Correct.
less the proponent having to pay for the service to ensure that that is not only compensated for, but that we as a town can fulfill what what they're asking to do, that we provide input on, so that they can then provide that final result of that study to the board or commission that they have to submit that to. Like I said, it would have to be planning board if they're building a project, so that fee is being used by the town. It's not being charged to the taxpayers. The proponent putting the project before the town, asking for the town to review and study and take care of all those types of reviews, and that money is going towards that. So it sounds like from the outside of it, it looks like the proponents and projects have actually sort of gotten a discount deal, as it were, by these fees, by this particular fee not being requisite with other municipalities of similar size over the last few years. So it sounds like we're catching up to that, and we're not saying that it's sort of like a free lunch kind of thing. It's you're gonna pay the right amount of charges to the town in order to have the town partake in the work that you need to have shown that you can do, and have it be reviewed for your project to even be considered by one of our boards and commissions.
Well said.
Thank you both.
I saw Julie has her hand up. Julie?
Yeah, so I understand there's $1,000 difference. I look at it differently, that three out of their 4 bottom line items tripled. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's $1,000, but it's like 100 went to 300, 100 went to 300, 500 went to 1,500. So it's could be more of a percentage thing. But the other question I had was a little bit further up on the commercial side, the driveway curbs with its dashes, and then it went to 200. Were we not charging for those 3 dashes? I don't know, about 10 spaces up, I guess, where it says commercial driveway curb, commercial driveway road opening, trench permits. There was like dash, 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 and now all of a sudden it's 200. Were we, in your words, were we doing it for free before, and now we want to charge? And I know it's the commercial side and we don't have tons of commercial, but I'm just curious if we didn't charge in the past and now we're charging.
Which one is that?
If you go, I don't know, it's about a little bit further up from the water impact study. So it's like where it says commercial. So it says any and residential, but then it says commercial. It's all under the DPW.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. Their fees that they had no fee tied to them. So yeah, so they're going from 0 to 200. So it may have been a matter of, as long as it probably was at that point, we were on the honor system, I'm guessing, Laurie, that we were trusting that the developers were actually making the curb cuts the correct way, and then just saying to the DPW, we've done this.
I mean, I know they did charge trench fees. I don't know if they just separated it as commercial and residential. I think there's another trench permit, but I think that might be what you're seeing, Julie, is they decided to make a commercial and a residential, and I think the residential is on here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, I guess all dashes, would have the same question. Like, did we not charge and now we are, or it was, like you said, maybe it was packaged somewhere else. I'm not really sure. Because it says current amount, it's like nothing. So I don't know if it's somewhere else or not that it matters. So it's just kind of a.
Well, some of them say like per $16 per 1,000 minimum. So
yeah, $100 minimum. I see that on the fire alarm stuff.
But if it's 0 and then it's 200, I don't think they ever had a commercial cost. It was just like a trench permit, just a one-time deal. I think they segregated that out to commercial and residential, I'm guessing, but
That's fine.
It seems like it might have been ambiguous at that point, so they had to break it out.
Right. And you said it wasn't in the budget because it took a long time to do this, but will it be in the budget going, or maybe I misinterpreted that. Like, it's not in the budget currently, correct? Like
correct.
Would it be going forward or not?
Yes.
And has it in the past? like the current ones, was it in last year's? I don't have it in front of me.
Not the new fees, but the regular fees are, yeah. The
So
fees that,
this year's fees were not because because they were proposing the new ones, is that?
yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah, the fees are always being looked at and based on trend and everything. So these fees in our preliminary, we didn't include them, but when we go to finalize in the next few weeks, we're gonna look at the new rates and give all the information or gather all the information that the departments gave us, do some projections, and we will use them for revenue. So I'm not really sure about you know, we're in a good spot, you know, obviously more revenue is always good, so. Yeah, was that the answer you're
Similar to,
looking
yeah,
for?
well, yeah, I guess it's similar to Lee's, I think it was Lee's question about, will we know what it's gonna look like, what kind of revenue is it gonna bring us? And that's why I wasn't sure if it was asked at that time.
Yeah, so when we do the revenue, we have a projection scale, and our projections are based on last year's and then, increase, but our forecast hasn't included any of these fees. So obviously we'll take a look, one last look at before we bring the budget together, um, before everyone, when we finalize it in the next 2 weeks. If this is passed, then maybe we bump it up a little, but, we're in the end stage of putting the budget together as it is. So again, you know, if it passes, we'll put it in. If it doesn't, then we won't.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Alrighty, are there any other questions or concerns or items that members would like to discuss regarding this item? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I hear a motion to approve from Ms. Paris. Do I hear a second?
Second,
It's a tie between Rig and Steve. Steve, would you be okay if I gave it to Rig?
absolutely, second.
All right, seconded by Rig and, echoed by Steve. Josh, if you'd be so kind as to do the roll call.
MJ,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Alrighty, thank you, everyone. Now we're gonna move on to our next item, and this is one of my most fun ones that I like to deal with when it comes to budget processes and finances. It is a capital improvement plan under Order O-FY 24-035, adoption of a 5-year capital improvement plan. With the brief explanation, the 2024 to 2029 capital improvement plan program is presented for adoption by the council. It is a multi-year guide, but not an appropriation. The plan changes from year to year as revised or as new items are added or amended. A little bit of background for those of you who are new to being on a finance committee. This is actually one of the big things in municipal government that helps we as municipalities guide and steer how capital improvement funds are going to be used over a period of time. Usually it's a 5-year time span. There are some towns that do 10-year plans. They're usually the bigger ones, but they address everything from buildings and maintenance all the way down to vehicle fleets and infrastructure improvements. So for us, for the town of Bridgewater, for 2024 to 2029, we have this capital improvement plan or capital improvement program submitted to us for review. I'm hoping that members had a chance to read over it and get a good understanding of what we're looking to achieve as a town and offer up some questions. But before we have any questions, I would like Ms. Guarini to go over some of the more salient points of what we're looking at. Oh, Laura, you're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you, Madam
No
Chair.
worries.
So yes, this ever-evolving document is a snapshot of requested projects and town manager goals of things that they would like to get done. So if anyone has any specific questions, yeah, let me know. I'm here to help.
So I will start off, for 24 through 29. So when it comes to overall, we're looking at, we have in here first and foremost, we have the capital improvement plan for 24 through 25. So that's just looking at the first fiscal year of this 5-year program. So we're looking at about $35 million altogether. Looking at the items here, we're looking at the 192 budget being 5.3 million, and then the roadways and construction and maintenance for 25 million. I think those are probably the bigger concerning ones. Are those going to include probably some pavement management programming issues, street work, roadway layouts, probably some sidewalk improvements, and probably some roadway improvements. Public buildings, I would surmise that would relate to upkeep and maintenance of our buildings, like the revised memorial building, the not so recently renovated Academy building, and other town buildings that are under our purview. Are there any major things that we're looking at within those? Because it doesn't look like the drop-down menu can go out for this fiscal year. Are there really any big ones that we're really looking at in those two items that are really, really pressing?
You mean the roadways or?
Yeah,
Sorry.
those are the two that I was looking at, was public buildings and property maintenance, and then roadway construction and maintenance.
Yep, so if you turn to page 16, it has all the public building projects that are requested for fiscal. The ones for fiscal 24, you'll see upcoming on an upcoming order, probably next on your agenda. The requested projects for 2025 include $5 million worth of public buildings and property maintenance. It includes, so this encompasses everything. It's also encompasses CPC projects, funds from Chapter 90 is in here. So the big ticket ones, you know, there's one in here for like the senior center grounds is $645,000. Does that mean we're going to be able to do that project? I know there's, Mrs. Williams is looking again at grant funding to do some improvements. So it doesn't necessarily mean that all of this will be funded by the stabilization or that, but it's just projects that are of need that have been requested by the departments. So also you see the big the roadways, for example, is, let's see, is 25 million. So what, if you turn up to page 21, we have Flag Street on there. That project alone with the paving, the drainage, and the water lines is like $8 million. We have Cross Street, Green Street, South Street. So if we did those 4 streets, which we need to do, whether we pay for it with grants or debt exclusion vote, borrowing, Chapter 90, those are the priorities that we wish to see and the townspeople wish to see for 25 million. So it's a challenge to say the least at how we can do all that. But this is what the plan's all about. It's like, what do we need to do? And these show the eminent need that we need to do a lot of roadway work, for example. So the goal is to do it. Can we do it all? Not probably without some, without a debt exclusion vote or an authorization. And that ultimately is left up to the council to put on a vote for that or further discussion. So this document helps prioritize things that everyone needs or wants to get done, so hopefully that's what you can see in when you read through all the information there.
And the other question I had as well, I think I may have actually had the question answered for me. So overall, in general, a capital improvement plan not only gives you sort of an outline and sort of a goal. I'm trying to help educate some of our newer members. It serves not only as a needs list, but also a wants list that may not necessarily all of them be addressed, but the overall desire and goal of a capital improvement plan is to demonstrate long term that the town is seeking to address items that have a great need and that are a great concern to the community at large. And also part of our review of our bond ratings and our financial standings is a big component encased in the capital improvement program. Demonstrating that you have these types of programs and plans in place allows lending authorities and bond rating agencies to see that a town does have, colloquially, its act together to ensure that it's addressing goals and needs for a long-term perspective. Long-term planning is a very big thing. So when we're going out to bond for some of these programs or these projects, we can demonstrate to these entities that the town is appropriately planning for them and trying to address them, which is why we're obviously trying to get them done in the first place and also trying to seek funding for them. So this a capital improvement program is very important. So when you're dealing with municipal government, it's one of those, it's sort of like a holy grail. You have your municipal finance, you have your administration, but at the end of the day, your capital improvement program helps inform all those other branches of government so that you can get stuff done. And if you need to go out to borrow, you can do so with confidence. And now that I've said my commentary, I will acknowledge Ms. Klaparis has her hand up for a question.
I just want to reiterate what Laurie said, that even, first of all, that this is a plan and not necessarily, we're not really voting today on the actual money being spent. It's almost like a wish list, like you mentioned. And that, like the Bristol Plymouth thing, that would be that was a debt exclusion that we voted for, although the other half of our district did not. So they're paying for it out of their operating budget. And that the other, the school stuff, that's, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that some of that's coming from the chapter 90, the 90 money. Is that fair to say, Laurie? I know there's a lot of pages here.
The school or the roadway?
Yeah, like the 90 money, because some people may not know what that is that are new to the committee when you say there's other sources. So I just.
Right. The chapter 90 money is actually from the Department of Transportation. That's roadways. I think you're probably thinking chapter 70.
Chapter 70. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the school has provided us with their capital needs. Obviously, their school committee votes an assessment and they send us what it's for. But we plug all of their information in this capital plan. So if you do look through it, you'll see that all the things that the school buildings needs and wants are in there too. Like there's actually something in here for the windows and replacements of whatever, and it's the funding source is MSBA. So we've captured and included all the school departments, Bridgewater side budgets, with the Bridgewater buildings and the district-wide regional school. So,
and district-wide, we're responsible for the a percentage of the high school because we share it. But as far as the schools physically in Bridgewater, we're responsible 100%, correct?
100%. So every year it depends on the enrollment. The enrollment is split into a percentage, and for fiscal 25, it's 61.17, I believe, is Bridgewater.
Okay, thank you.
Are there
Thank
any
you.
other members that have questions regarding the capital improvement program?
Mhm.
Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I hear a
Second.
motion from Ms. Paris. Second was from Rig.
Yep.
Alrighty, seconded by Mr. Knoll. Josh, if you'd be so kind.
MJ,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you, Josh. Now we're moving on to our next item here, which is sort of tangential. Order O-FY24-036, Town Department Capital Transfer Order. So we have several department items here. It looks like we are transferring funds for capital projects to the tune of $1.15 million. And the departments are listed here, and the funding sources from which those funds will come from. Laurie, if you could clarify this a little bit for us. So what we're looking at is what we're taking the funding from and putting it toward, correct?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. So I have a spreadsheet of all the projects if you guys want to go through it, or I can send it to you, however you prefer, but these are this fiscal year's fiscal 24 requests from the departments and the needs that are going to get us through the summer until the books are closed and free cash is certified, and then the process starts all over again. Knowing what we know from the capital plan, these appropriations will reconcile to the plan for 24. Fiscal 25, we're working on now to prioritize, obviously, so that we know going into the fall what we can afford and you know, try to work out what the goals are for the council and for the departments. But this particular order is for current year that will flow into fiscal 25. So, and I can share my screen if you want. We can go through it quickly, or I can just send the spreadsheet with all these particular items.
I would say, Laurie, if the membership is curious and want to go through those items, I would be comfortable with letting Ms. Guarini share a screen with us and go through them. But I will defer to my colleagues to see if there is a interest in that. Otherwise, we can dispense with that and move forward. Ms. Klaparis, did you have something to add?
But yeah, I have a question on the police vehicles. It says 2 vehicles and then one special vehicle. Is that exclusive of the one we just got a grant for? So they'll be getting 3 new vehicles, or do you know if, right? Because we wouldn't be taking the money from here if we have a grant for the other one, right?
Right, so that grant vehicle was not included in the capital plan, so they weren't even gonna buy it before they just got the grant to upgrade that vehicle. So this is still in the plan for 3 vehicles, meaning 2 police vehicles and I think 1 SUV police vehicle.
So if we didn't get the grant, we wouldn't be, it wasn't like they took one out of here, out of the operating budget. It was, you weren't gonna get the extra vehicle that we discussed earlier. Is that what you're
Correct,
saying?
yeah, they weren't gonna replace it, correct.
All right, that's interesting. Okay, and yet we still got it, so that's a good thing, I guess. Thank you.
All right, and I see Ray has his hand up.
MJ. I was curious to know about the baseball dugouts. Is that for the high school? And what is that for specifically? The baseball dugouts.
Okay, do you mind if I share my screen, and we don't have to go through all of them, but I can show you pictures of the dugouts.
Yep.
Josh, can you, oh, there I go, okay. let's see. Can you see my screen?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. So the dugouts are 630, 26. So originally, the recreation department asked to replace 2 of the dugouts. I guess this is what they're looking like. They're a mess. 2 of them are completely dismantled, and I guess the other 2 are pretty badly damaged. So the original appropriation ask was to replace the 2 for 25,000. The Recreation Commission and the Recreation Superintendent recently came up and said they needed 4, so they need 50,000. So we're gonna fund these 2 right away, and then the funding for the other 2, we think we have enough in the recreation revolving, which is the fund that collects fees from the Little League baseball association to use the fields. So I think with the spring money and the money that has accumulated over this past year, there's enough money to do all 4. So 50,000 will be coming from the capital stabilization before you, and the other 50 will come from the recreation revolving fund, which has a balance enough to get those all 4 of them fixed, because they're all obviously in disarray and disrepair.
Laurie, follow-up question. I recall about maybe, gosh, it's got to be 6 years ago now. When the town endured a really nasty windstorm. I remember that several dugouts at the baseball fields down on the Legion Field were heavily damaged. Are some of these dugouts the ones that were affected by that? Because I know one of them was completely blown over, structure and all. I'm assuming that these are probably the same ones that were either damaged or had to be rehabilitated. Because I remember, side note of a story, I remember Charlie Simons coming into the office of the town manager's office and letting me know that stuff had happened over a weekend, that we had a massive windstorm and some of the dugouts got seriously damaged. So I'm guessing that some of these are the ones that may have had to be rehabilitated at that time, or they're the newer ones.
So thanks, MJ. I think that if I recall correctly, that we did receive an insurance claim on them. So Charlie probably fixed them up as best he could, knowing that they didn't give us enough money to totally replace it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think now they're just gonna rebuild them all. So
I remember having to file that insurance claim. I helped the town manager's office file that claim, and I was kind of surprised how much they gave us to fix it. And I'm actually kind of happy we're replacing them now. Would have been nice if we could have done it back then, but that is how it does happen sometimes. Insurance does be like that, I guess you could say. So it is good that we're tackling those, because that is I appreciate that Charlie did the work that he did. Good man that he was. So it does look like these do need that work and replacement. And do we know how long it will take to replace those, and if it'll affect the upcoming season for everyone?
well, if they get this appropriation approved, they're chomping at the bit to get them all done. So yeah, right away. I'm sure they'll fix them right away before the season.
Julie,
That's
did you have a
April
question?
1st.
Well, not on that set. I was wondering what the SCBA PACS, the town share grant was. That, it's only 29,580, and that compared to the other things, it's not a large amount, but what is the SCBA
Oh.
PACS town share thing?
MSBA.
Yeah.
So that's the Mass School Building Authority. So those are loans that the school can get through the state agency. That's who, when we build new schools, they assist with low interest, and I think they give grant money.
No, I'm not
to
talking about the
assist.
MSBA. I'm talking this machine and equipment vehicle right there?
Oh, sorry.
All right, I know what the MSAB hit, the one that saved us money on the new school. No, that
Oh,
one
okay.
that's 220.48.
Oh, okay. So
Machine's
sorry.
equipment. That's
I
okay.
apologize. So that is this equipment, self-contained breathing apparatus. So these are the equipment that the fire department has to replace. They're inspected. There's a state inspection for all of these, so we were able to secure a grant that you accepted, I believe, last probably at the beginning. I'm not really sure what the date that you accepted it, but the town was awarded originally $298, and so we have to pay 10% of the town share cost for the $300,000 worth of new equipment.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Julie. I was like,
No, that's okay. I know it's late.
I'm not even at home. I'm at a conference, so I'm like, ah.
Are you the accounting conference out in Amherst? Because
Yeah.
my direct supervisor is the treasurer collector over in Avon. She's also out there. So if you run across Deb, tell her I said hi.
Okay.
Were there any other questions from members? Not hearing any other questions. Do we want to move the question? I mean, otherwise I'll entertain a motion if there's desire for a motion at this point.
Motion to approve?
I hear a motion to approve by it was Ray, right?
Yes.
Alrighty. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Seconded by Mr. Pace. Josh, if you'd be so kind as to take the roll call, please.
MJ,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Steve,
aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Alrighty, so now moving on to the next item here, order O-FY24-037, a transfer order, Bridgewater Rainham School District Capital Assessment. Just a brief overview, the quick explanation here, measure appropriates funds for the Bridgewater Rainham Regional School District in addition to those already enacted in the town's annual budget as recommended by the school committee. And an attachment is provided to us, which I hope that everybody read and reviewed. So Laurie, going over this, we're taking money from capital stabilization and appropriating it to school capital for Bridgewater Rainham School District for the exact amount from one side to another, correct?
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Alrighty. And then we have the breakout of what that amount of $1.08 million is going to go towards, ranging from replacing asphalt pavement and I guess a rest stripe at the front of the school, at the Bridgewater Middle School, crack fill and seal coating. Let's see, district firewall, I'm guessing that's technology right there. Replace turf field lighting, self-explanatory. So it looks like we're dealing with 3 for the high school, three district-wide, for Williams Middle School, 4 items, and then roughly 6 items for Bridgewater Middle School. So other than the explanation, do I have any questions or concerns from members?
Nope.
Okay. Alrighty, there are no questions or concerns. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to
Motion to-
approve?
Motion
Second.
approved made by Rig, seconded by Julie. Josh?
MJ,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Alrighty, and the last order that we have before us tonight, before we have the other last 2 items, we have order O-FY24-038 capital transfer order water and sewer enterprise fund. So this is a transfer of funds for water and sewer enterprises. A total of 542,000 from sources of funding from retained earnings for both water and sewers as retained earnings to infrastructure, professional services, and machinery equipment. And the transfer will fund capital water and sewer projects, 133.27, 155.29, 192.37, and 192.70. Lori, since I just basically gave a 30,000 foot view, is there anything in particular that we should probably talk about minutia wise regarding these items?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So yeah, again, these are requested by the DPW. So the Sprague Hill tank cleaning, that is kind of self-explanatory. The Carver's Pond filter valve project. So last year, an order came before you about Carver's Pond filter replacements that hadn't been replaced in many years. That when that process was done, it was determined that all the valves were the next thing that needed to be fixed at the Carver's Pond. So Carver's Pond has also got quite the upgrade. So this will bring this station up to where it needs to be. So.
I do have a question, and I wonder if this might actually circle back to our conversation earlier as it relates to rates. The $47,000 for sewer affordability analysis and rate study, is that part of what yielded the request for changing the rates or increasing the rates? Is this sort of like the payment for that work being done, or is this part of a new effort to ensure rates are affordable?
This is for the new effort. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is for the new effort for the phase 2 of the wastewater facility. Yep.
And then sewer department vehicle, I guess that's the last one, $45,000 for that. Is there a particular sewer department vehicle? Is it one of the trucks, or is it a specialized piece of equipment?
It's just a replacement of a truck that needs to be put out to pasture. So
They do get some miles on those. I know when I last went down there, Jonas showed me a few of the trucks in the fleet, and they were a little advanced in age, so maybe perhaps we should politely retire it. If there are any members who have any questions, please feel free to speak up. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I hear a motion to approve from Julie. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Pace. Josh, can you do the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Rig, you're on mute.
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you, everybody. So now we are at the last two items on the agenda. Item F, additional items for discussion. If anybody does have any additional items for discussion, you may do so at the moment in time. I know I do not have anything, so I shall open it up to my colleagues to see if they have anything to speak of. Julie, I see your hand up.
Okay, I just don't know if anyone's aware that the school committee gave their budget presentation I don't know, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and it's available online or on YouTube if anybody wants to check it out. You know, what they're looking for, what they might get, what Rainham can give, that kind of thing. Because I don't know that we've discussed that. I don't recall discussing that yet here. So check it out online if you're interested.
Thank you, Julie, for the reminder. I know because you and I both were there, and I know, can't remember the other gentleman's name. It escapes me at the moment. It's been a long day. Jim, I believe it was. I know we were there in that meeting. It was sort of productive. I personally wish they had sort of, other than, just saying, members from the finance committee are here, that we didn't really have the opportunity to speak. And I was kind of surprised by that. So it was one of the first times I've done it as a member of a committee. I had been to that joint meeting in the past as a secretary of the committee, so it really didn't matter if I had a say or not, but I was kind of surprised that they didn't, outside of just acknowledging that we were there in attendance, they didn't actually ask for our input or how we felt about how things were being discussed. I was definitely pleased that the conversation was balanced and back and forth between the council and the school committee and the superintendent and the town manager. It definitely was a good starting point, and I appreciate that everybody was there to discuss the budget itself and what the district's looking for, what the town is looking to work with. As to our participation in the matter, I was kind of surprised we weren't asked to say a few words. It may have been because it was just myself, the vice chair, as vice chair, and two other members, and the chairman wasn't able to attend. But I would have said on behalf of the committee that we look forward to working with all stakeholders in the budget process, so that we can try to get a better understanding of what the school district's looking for and how the town can help address that going forward for FY25, both in the short term and the long term. So
My takeaway, I was at the meeting as well, and I think I've attended the meeting in the past from the school committee side, and I believe that FinCom people have spoken, but that's back when they were held in the cable thing
Yeah.
over on Spring Street there. So I'm not sure what the difference was this time.
Yeah,
As far as the budget goes, I'm pretty sure Rainham for the first time come up on the short end of the stick, so we have to give proportionately. So I believe our numbers in like the 3.15 range or something along those lines, which
and I was definitely
doable for us,
concerned.
but I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I was definitely concerned that we didn't have the chance to speak to that. But
Right.
I think again, it may have been it was definitely a different time versus what used to happen in the past. So there could be a matter of formality that either, I'm not saying it was overlooked. I'm not saying there was any malicious intent on it or anything like that. It was just odd that we weren't asked for our input on it, even with the small delegation that we had. But I appreciated that they invited us and let us at least be a part of that conversation. So I'm hoping that we can continue to do that going forward and hopefully be able to interact a little more vociferously. So I definitely agree with you on that one, Julie.
I think it's in the charter. I think they have to invite us whether or not we attend.
Again, that may be that's true, but us contributing to the conversation as opposed to just sitting there and just looking like sitting
Looking
there.
like we could have been community members, right? I get it.
Exactly. Are there any other members that have any items for additional discussion this evening? Hearing none, I will bring us to our last item, adjournment of meeting, which is I think our favorite one at this point.
Well, can we talk about when the other meetings are or when the budget?
Yes, we can.
Reiterate when we might be voting on the budget and stuff like that. I forget that. I don't have the calendar in front of me.
Yeah, Josh, do you have the calendar by chance?
Not on hand here. I wouldn't have that information readily available. I can email the committee after, once I get it, but.
All right.
All right, thank you.
So I think then, Laurie, do you have the calendar for the budget? Just quickly.
So typically what happens is it'll go it goes on the first April meeting of the town council for referral. So that I think is May 9th. So it won't be going through next week, but I think it's the April 9th. So once it gets referred on the 9th, then you guys want to schedule a few, maybe more than your usual, whatever you guys decide you want to do. But I think the vote sometime mid-May for the public hearing at council. So
Okay.
so between the referral and the public hearing is when you guys will see all the numbers and debate your debates and ask questions and hopefully we'll
Thank you.
So I'd
be
say
ready.
then at this juncture, folks, keep your calendars open. when, based upon the schedule that we had last year, just keep your schedule open at this point for the next few months if you can. Because we do want to try to have all hands on deck just to go through the whole process. We want to be able to do our part in the process and help the town get things done and achieved in a timely manner. Julie, did you have your hand up again?
No, I just forget to put it down. Sorry.
No worries. Active participation is still always welcomed and appreciated. So that said, our next meeting, because council won't meet this week, they are meeting next week, right, Laurie?
Yeah, the 26th, yes.
Okay, so our next meeting then would probably be April 1st, April 2nd timeframe. Am I right on that one, Josh?
Yeah,
Okay. So tentatively, we want to keep on the calendar Monday, April 1st for our next committee meeting.
Unless you
Yeah,
do a joint meeting, if,
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yep. So, yeah, we can try to do that at that point, right? Yeah. Yeah, we should.
yeah, I'll talk to Deb tomorrow.
Yeah.
And see what their schedule is looking like and, see if we can get something scheduled as soon as possible.
Yeah, because I know right now for my schedule, I'm totally okay with the 1st of April if we can get that group meeting together at that point. I can also work with a Tuesday. I'm not sure what other members would be looking like because I know we will meet on Mondays. But if they have any other days during the week that are also just in the event we have to work around other folks' schedules and our own, I just want to make sure folks would be okay with that if we had to do that.
I'm available the first week of April. I'm not available the second week. So if anything comes up the second week,
All right.
I'll add it.
And like I said, I have my schedule pretty much open. My social calendar is kind of light. But I know other members may not have that same luxury. So I would say right now, tentatively, we'll keep it on the schedule for April 1st is our next meeting. And then Josh, if we can try to get them to, when you talk to the council, the staff, we can try to maybe get them in on the 1st as well. That might be doable.
Yep.
Excellent. So at this point, folks, we keep our ears open and our eyes peeled for stuff to come from council, and then we look forward to speaking with at least a sub part of it. If there aren't any other items to discuss for the evening, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion made by Ms. Clapars. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bean. Josh, if you could take the roll call.
MJ,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved. Meeting is adjourned.
Alrighty,
care,
folks.
everyone.
We'll see you
Good
in
night,
a few
all.
weeks.
Thank you, everyone.